Hi, I'm Brian Thayard, and these are messages to you, myself, because not only are we all in this together, but ultimately we're the same heart, the same one. We share the same consciousness. We are the same. And to whatever degree you may experience that or not, this channel, you could say, is dedicated to bringing about clarity, right-mindedness, and a sense of ease in life that takes us beyond our limited ideas of ourselves. So, speaking of which, the message today is about forgiveness. And I wanted to talk about it from a slightly different angle, because you could think of forgiveness as the means for giving us peace and certainty and release and all these wonderful qualities. But a lot of times people will just get totally snagged up on how do you forgive? Of course, there's many teachings on forgiveness and how to forgive, and many beautiful true teachings, different aspects of forgiveness and how you can break down belief structures and examine the contents of your mind and see through them to the reality. But I want to actually focus not so much on the means of forgiveness, but on the value of the goal today, and the value of the goal of forgiveness. And you could say the value of the goal is most important, because without that value, you won't be able to clarify the means. You won't have the motivation to really embody the means or learn the means, experience the means. And what is the value that you set for yourself? That's the question. What is the value you set for yourself and for your life, and what you want in the deepest prayer in your heart, as I've talked about before? What is the deepest desire in your heart? Is it some version, if it is some version of a true desire for freedom and for peace, true peace, unassailable peace, then the means will become more clear for you in that. So, let's talk about the value of the goal of forgiveness today. Yeah. Do you want release? Do you want? Of course you do. All of us want to be released from whatever limitations we seem to have. There's a desire for that. So we want to bring that forward into consciousness, into our awareness, and say, more than anything, I don't want to just, go through life living a humdrum so-called good life or maintaining a status quo, or just going along and having a sort of even keel of a life as best I can. I really want to feel free. I want to know my freedom, and I want that freedom to be free of conditions. I want not to be invested in limited ideas of freedom, as funny as that may sound, like financial freedom or freedom of the body in some way, or just the ideas of freedom that are associated with being able to do something or some kind of action or behavior or condition that you think will bring you happiness. That's not freedom, and we all know that in our hearts. But true freedom is like a call, it's a cry for mercy, really. It's a cry for mercy. Someone once asked me, what do you do for a living? And this was many years ago, and I said, I cry for mercy. And we just both started cracking up laughing, because really, if you truly cry for mercy, you're crying for freedom, and you will receive the answer. Now, you will be invited in that call for freedom to become consistent and vigilant on behalf of freedom. But you won't really be able to understand that and experience that fully until you at least establish the importance of the goal in your heart. So it's like becoming clearer and more clarified on the value of where your heart is, there your treasure is as well. And is there anything in this world that you really believe will bring you the satisfaction and the peace and the completion that you're looking for? Well, if there still is something, then just tell the truth about it, whether it's a relationship, whether it's, as I mentioned, a financial goal, or a possession of certain objects and things, or a attainment of a circumstance, or living in a certain location, all these kind of things. You just want to expose these things, bring them to the altar, and at least just be willing to say, maybe I'm wrong about this bringing me the peace and happiness I hope it will. And I'm not saying you shouldn't want those things, but maybe I'm wrong about this bringing me the peace and the happiness and the freedom I hope it will. Because all the true wisdom teachers throughout time, all the masters of love throughout, from the beginning of recorded history, have all made one thing, you could say, had a very clear agreement on one thing. And that one thing can be expressed in many ways, but I want to express it as that whatever you egoically establish for yourself as the condition of your happiness, that will not satisfy you ultimately, and you will, if there's one thing the ego teaches, it's to keep resetting your goal. Once you get what you think you want and it doesn't satisfy you, it sets you another goal and another and another and another, and you never really find what you're looking for that way, obviously. And this is radical. I really feel a lot of people can compromise with this idea and get locked into a kind of pursuit of happiness according to conditions and circumstances. So when we establish the value of the goal in our hearts, it's basically like asking ourselves the question in such a raw and authentic way, what do I really want? And if this was my last day on earth, what is it that I really want? What is it that really matters to me? That's the level at which we need to approach the value of the goal of our lives. Like Don Juan, who's the teacher of Carlos Castaneda, said, treat death like an ally, which is a reversal of the way we think of death, like it's just sitting on your shoulder, so that everything is in your life is brought into the light of the truth that this could be your last act, this could be your last breath, this could be it for you. And how do you want it to be? How do you want it to be? Because that's the kind of drive or relentless passion of the heart, of the soul, that wants to come through. That, like if you ever saw the movie Braveheart, I think of the last scene where Mel Gibson is being stretched out on the rack and his innards are being ripped out, which is kind of a gruesome image, but he cries out with all of his heart, freedom! Just like with all of his heart. And everyone who's watching this public display of tyranny, it just rips through their being, and they all feel the power of that cry. And of course that leads to the liberation of their people, ultimately. But that call in our heart has to be like that to some extent. I don't think the circumstances need to be that way, but the call has to be like that. We have to establish that kind of call in our heart where we start to see very soberly, look at the world and what it's brought and what it could or won't or could not bring to us. We don't know what it will bring in the future, but one thing's for sure, it could end at any moment. And so how do we want this moment to be? So forgiveness actually is just, it's releasing this idea of anything that compromises how we want this moment to be in the prayer of our heart at the deepest level. Forgiveness is about releasing anything that compromises that. It's just about seeing, I don't want that, I'm going to let that go. And it doesn't mean we don't move forward in our lives with action steps that are very practical and perhaps even mundane and ordinary. But it does mean that those ordinary, practical, seemingly mundane steps will be infused with an extraordinary power when you establish the goal for yourself and you hold that goal in your heart. I don't even say if you establish it, you don't really even have to hold it. It's more like it holds you. When you start to find that in yourself, and it becomes what really matters to you, and all that matters to you, and there's no other options except that mattering to you, then everything else in your life starts to fall in line with that, and life becomes easier. It holds you, it takes charge of you, and you don't have to effort to hold it. So I want to encourage us all to just look within and make your freedom cry. Make your if you've already made your freedom cry, just here I am joining in celebration with you, and yet we can always go deeper, and I stand with you in that commitment to go deeper, and to be a part of this grand unfolding play of consciousness, and to be bringers of light, to stand for the light in apparent darkness, seeming darkness, and show that it has no power. So may you be a bringer of light, and may you receive light, and may you stand in the face of darkness with certainty, the certainty of heart that you know deep inside. And may death be on your shoulder as an ally, not as a fear, a future fear, a horrible fear. And may those people around you just be infused with the certainty of the value you bring to life, and the value you bring to this moment, and the forgiveness of everything that seems to compromise that. Just a complete release and let go of that. May all those beings be touched, that you are in your life, be touched by you. They are touched by you, and will continue to be touched by you. So thank you, brothers, thank you, sisters, thank you, beloveds, for being with me at this time. Sorry for the wind on my mic if it's too loud. Just a spontaneous little talk here, message to myself, and I love you. Till next time, bye-bye.